Pius, it's great to have you. And thanks everyone for joining. So, I'm really honored to be here chatting with Pius Chan. Pius is the marketing lead at Lumen 5, and someone who I look up to. I learned a lot from Pius just on our call before. Kind of walking through what we're going to talk through here, and I'm excited that you can share a lot of that. Before jumping into things, just wanted to do some housekeeping stuff. So it's encouraged for folks to participate in the chat. Say hello, say where you're from, ask questions along the way. We have this nice feature with sessions here. So example question. I'm just going to type this in live, and then we can highlight those at the end here. So really fun features, and we can upvote stuff if you see a question that you like. So everything's also recorded. We're going to share out the recording after this. And without further ado, we should get started. So Pius, thanks so much for joining us. I think one starting point that I love to ask everyone is just kind of like, what was your journey like? What's your origin story? How did you get to where you are now at Lumen 5? And then we can kind of go into more of your journey there.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me, Kevin. It's great to be here and kind of chatting with you through this stuff. It's very exciting to talk through different stages and companies and different things. So it's nice to be here. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I know we're kind of talking about like the buyer's journey and how where people can navigate and move up market. That seems to be like a pretty topic du jour. And I'm curious, like when you jumped into the state of Lumen 5, like how things were, and how you kind of like assess the lay of the land there before making the decision to move up market. So maybe you can kind of like set the stage there for folks. It would be a good starting point, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think to kind of talk about where we're at now, we go back in time a little bit to where we started, but looking at the company itself, but also my career and looking at where I started was about 20-ish years ago, working for selling copiers kind of door to door. And this was like in 2001 for Canon. So it was a very different way of selling back then. And it was a lot of times when salespeople had the information, the power of information, and you really had to rely on the salesperson to tell you all the things about the market, tell you all the things about their product or what was happening, and kind of rely on that one person. After Canon, I started working for a company called Business Objects, and this was around 2003. And they were later acquired by SAP. So massive enterprise organization. I think like 80,000 people global at that time. I'm pretty sure they're much larger now. But after SAP, I worked for a few different tech companies as well, like Absolute Software, ACL, who got acquired by Galvanize and now Diligent, and then moving on to smaller companies and smaller like social media companies like Hootsuite. And then eventually working towards startup companies like Procurify and now Lumen 5. So working from very large organizations and kind of moving to smaller ones, you get to see a good view of where things are trying to build towards and where these founders are trying to go towards, ultimately either towards IPO or towards acquisition or towards just growing their company from a 5-person company to a 50,000 person company. So it's been really nice to have that kind of experience and work with some really cool people along the way. But when we started at Lumen 5, that was the journey, and the founders were looking for a way to go from a self-serve solopreneur monthly recurring revenue and towards an enterprise business going up market. So when I joined in early 2021, I think that was a few years ago now, the self-serve business was kind of falling flat. The company had gone through a massive hyper growth stage in the early years because of the product. It was new to the market. It was needed at that time, and it really took off. This was around 2016, 2017. And what was unique about Lumen 5 was very much the AI piece, machine learning, and getting into all of that before the craze and the hype of this year. But as the years kind of progressed in the early years, we saw a very kind of a market saturation of very similar tools. So the field was getting a little played out,
Mm.
and that was really due to social media catching on with videos, and these solopreneurs trying to make videos in a lot of ways. So a lot of tools were coming up that was competing with Lumen 5, and so we made the decision to move up market and kind of grab that enterprise market. So when I came on board, the my experience lent itself to building that enterprise function and that enterprise team. So,
Mhm.
yeah, we decided to change a lot of things within the company itself, and kind of go from there to capture a brand new market that was still very fresh in what the consumer world or the solopreneur world was doing. Because as we all know, enterprise is a slow moving beast, and it's a little slower to catch up to where the consumers are. And we kind of saw this in social media as well in my time at Hootsuite, where Facebook and Instagram was where people were at, but businesses were not going there yet, and it kind of lagged behind. So we saw the same kind of thing with video creation, and we're seeing that now. So it's been a pretty good explosion.
Yeah, and were there any like I'm curious if there is just any like particular signals or like pull that you're seeing? I mean, I guess one signal is just like things flattening out or there being
Mhm.
more competition coming into the market and you hitting ceilings with the self serve side of things. But was there like a ideal customer or something like that that was like, oh, this is something that works in the enterprise that was kind of like pulling you into that direction? Or I'm curious like what signals you were looking at to like know that this is the right move.
Yeah, I think it was the right time, right? When we were looking at also the pandemic hit, a lot of people were working from home, and this was around 2020, 2021. Obviously, as we all, it's still fresh in our minds. But essentially, when people shifted working from home, the need for that polished video wasn't quite there, right? Everyone hopped on Zoom. All of a sudden, this need to feel connected to people, and you're not looking at these Super Bowl ads where they're highly polished, agency created, in full 4K, 8K video. We just want to feel connected to people, and so a lot of the video creation now had shifted away from that to be more real, to want to see that person across the screen, maybe just kind of see flaws and feel more human in our own homes.
Mhm.
So when we looked at that, and the marketing content that was put out there no longer needed to be very polished, right? It was just Zoom recordings of whomever, two people speaking, or your
Like
leader
this.
speaking,
Yeah.
just like this, right? You're connected, and it doesn't need to be. We don't need to be in a newsroom where we got a bunch of cameras and everything else. It was just home quality video. So enterprises started catching on to that, and putting out content that was that. So when that happened, are you going to pay $8,000 and wait 3 weeks for an agency style video, right?
Mm.
Versus having your own marketer shoot something on their phone and quickly edit it together. So that context had changed, and we saw a big uprising from that, from our customers and a lot of these enterprise customers that wanted to all of a sudden shift away from creating in these highly polished agency style videos to your everyday videos where people are putting out content every day, and they needed a tool to do so, and it seemed like a good time for us. So that was a good signal for us as well.
Yeah, yeah. And like speaking of stuff that is are trends that are kind of shifting, like
Hmm.
one shifting from like this polished type video to more like people are used to Zoom, they're used to like authenticity and like stuff looking a
Yeah.
little more raw. I also feel like the same kind of trends, maybe brought up earlier due to the pandemic, but there's like instead of this linear buyer journey that you're kind of referring to earlier of when you're selling copiers, now moving into like more digital, dark funnel, like not like the sellers aren't in control of
Yeah.
this buyer journey. I wonder, and I know you have some visuals to like kind of to kind of show here, but I'm just wondering if you can kind of like dive into how those trends direct your approach or direct your approach to moving a market. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, yeah, sure. Maybe I'll just jump into the visual part and kind of show the
Yeah, if
the
we could
shift
talk
away
through
from.
that. I mean, I
Sure.
kind of know what's coming, so I think
Yeah.
that'll be good for the audience here. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, maybe kind of how we shifted, like when I first joined Lumen 5, and I think this is similar for any business who's serving a self-serve kind of online purchasing self-serve market, is that there's no team that was readily available to support this model of enterprise sales. When you look at
Mm.
enterprise sales, it's obviously very white glove, and considers or requires a larger team to support that. The revenue that we bring in, and the kind of growth that we've had supports that growth of people hires for sure, but people is the first, right? And we always say people plus process equals performance. And the first thing that we did was hire the right people to fill these roles and fill these functions that we need on the sales side, marketing side, customer experience side, on the servicing side. So that's the first thing that I did was hire these teams and build those teams to fill these functions. And then really secondly was to bring the process along the way.
Can I pause you there too?
Yeah.
Actually, I know people always have questions about like how do we hire the right people for
Okay.
this motion, or as I always get that question asked, like what do you look for in a marketing leader? How should I create like a interview loop for a marketing lead and or sales lead? So I'm curious, like
Mhm.
with moving up market, like what were some of the criteria that you used for like this is the right kind of hire to make so that we can like successfully navigate this like change in our go to market model?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think where we looked at, well, the first thing we looked at was what kind of team do we want to build? What kind of culture do we want to have, right? And there's a lot of I've worked through many sales teams with different cultures and different drives, different motivations, and you really see the end outcome of creating that culture first and hiring the right people that fit that culture. I think where a lot of leaders get into the difficulty is they find someone who's a superstar, right, but they don't might not have that culture quality, and that starts to erode the team after a little bit. So we wanted to make sure we did it right, and build that culture first of like what do we want to build, and what are we trying to go for, and then hire the right people to fill those seats. And for us, it was really a collaborative team with zero silos. Because when we're looking
Mm.
at go to market across the board, I manage our marketing, sales, customer experience, and service teams. So 4 different teams across our company. So the revenue side of the business, and also the business side of the business outside of product engineering and people and finance. So when we're looking at building those teams, a lot of times you build a team and it's very sales focused, and everyone else gets left behind, or it's very marketing and brand driven and everything else gets left behind. But we wanted to build a team that was collaborative as a go to market team, and
Mhm.
find the people that really fit that culture fit. The second thing that we looked for, because it was a small team to start with, when we first started, it was a small, like just a handful of us, to now I think we're 20ish people on the team. So not as big as SAP or Hootsuite, to say the least, but for us, it's half the company, right? And we wanted to make sure that everyone kind of fit the mold, and because we're a smaller team, hiring that first seat is really important. So when we say first seat, it's someone who is able to do their function, who has experience in that role, but is also able to work outside of that function as well.
Mhm.
And a big part of our culture, and something that we say all the time is, it's not my fault, but it's my problem to fix. And that's the mindset and mentality that we like to have, is like, hey, something happened, something went wrong, it's not my fault, but I want to help fix it. I want to help drive to this solution to fix whatever that thing is. And I think to have a first seat who has that experience is really important. When we get larger and we start hiring second seats, second,
Mhm.
third roles for that, like our first AE was really important to have that experience. And now we have three, right? Or maybe a marketer, someone in the content role is the first person who's doing that role. It's really important for them to have cross-functional, omni-channel role and experiences, whereas the second and third seat might not. So kind of
Yeah.
identifying that person who's able to take that first seat was key for
Like
us.
chart those uncharted waters and like kind of pave the way for the rest and kind of
Yeah.
prove out the patterns. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So now 3 years in, we're a very high functioning team. I think everybody's in the right seats. We have the right split of skill sets, and everybody's doing a great job. I think and that contributes massively to our growth. So it's really all people.
Mm.
They don't have to have, the the most experience or the highest skill, but to work collaboratively and to know each other's strengths is a big one, because I have a lot of strengths, but I have a lot of weaknesses that I rely on my team for, and my teammates, they also have to have the corresponding strengths to deflect my weaknesses, right? Because we always say a strong team isn't a team full of people with the exact same skills. Everyone has different skills, and how do you build that right team to offset each other's weaknesses?
Yep, yep, yep. Totally feel you on that one. And so now you have like the, we talked about like the kernel, the team that's the right
Mhm.
team. Then I think the next step or the next phase is probably like around process, and maybe that's
Yeah,
when we can jump into some of the visuals
sure.
of the process that you created. It's super interesting stuff that I want to share with the group here. So
Yeah, process is fun. I think, like, we can build the best processes, right? But if we don't have the right teams to run those processes, or to carry those through, it is kind of a moot point. But if you can see my screen here,
yeah, looks
yeah, I
good.
think so. Great. This is definitely not something that I came up with, and it's been around for a long time in terms of the buyer's journey in all the stages of awareness, consideration, purchase, retention, and advocacy. Again, this is stuff that I've been running through since the start of my career in '01, and it hasn't changed a lot. This is how people buy. You're first aware of something, then you consider something, then you enter the sales cycle, and then you either like it or you don't, and you stay or you don't. And then at the end, you become an advocate for that product, and you tell your friends about it, or whatnot. But really, the first part of this is run by our marketing team, the second part is run by our sales team, and the third part is run by our customer experience team. And this is typically how a lot of organizations work in every company that I've been at anyways. But what changes is these little dots here is what works for your company, and what attracts you. And we've mapped it out where, most likely the journey for a customer starts on social media, right? They first hear about us on LinkedIn, or they see about us on LinkedIn. They talk about us, and word of mouth is huge for how buyers buy, and where they talk about. We like to post about our awards to talk a little bit, and this helps other people find us and see what we're about. We talk about, we contribute to communities, and that's a big thing, right? Where now you see a lot of people don't want to talk to salespeople. They want to talk to their peers about what's happening out there, and I'll kind of jump into that in a second.
Mhm.
But after that, they jump onto your blog, and they learn a little bit more about you. um, and then we kind of get more into the weeds of the company here, where now you're talking specifically about this company review sites, and you're looking up whatever solution it is from things like G2, or wherever you go for reviews. And then maybe you jump on a webinar that's company hosted, right? Like this one, to learn more about specifically what they talk about. Ebooks, case study newsletters, and podcasts, all these are very specific to the company, whereas these are more widely known, right? You kind of come across these stages elsewhere. Jumping into the landing page, and then once you're in these stages, now you're putting up your hand and says, hey, I actually want to talk to somebody. And then you go through a discovery call with the customer to find out if they're actually a good fit. Once you determine so, you go through a demo product fit, and then a business fit, and then negotiations, procurement, and that's the sales cycle. And then onboarding adoption. Once they're a customer, you train them, you do an adoption business review to make sure that they're set up, they're trained, they're ready to go. Midway through their process, we like to do a risk assessment for their renewal that's coming up. Not like, hey, your renewal is coming up next week, let's renew. But midway through, we make sure that they're okay. And then we provide strategic business reviews to kind of go through their entire journey, and to make sure that they're still seeing value in the product, and they're where they're supposed to be. Kind of moving through referrals and expansions afterwards, once their value realization has been met. So you can kind of see the whole process through here, where at each different stage, we definitely measure different metrics for different teams. So my marketing team gets measured on the number of MQLs that they bring in, driving to purchase ready leads. Purchase ready leads are people who are willing, ready, and wanting to talk to a
Like
salesperson.
hand raisers
As
kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm ready to go, and whatnot. Number three is easy, right? That's just net new ARR, so deals closed, and whatnot. And then this is retention revenue. So this is the same all the way through, but for every company, it might be different in the journey that we talk about. And one of the a bigger shift when we went from self-serve monthly recurring revenue to solopreneurs was how we marketed and attracted our buyers. In the beginning, it was very ads heavy, paid ads in
Mhm.
social networks like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, SEO. But as we moved up market, that's really not where our enterprise ICP sits. And this is just for us as well. So different companies might have different areas that their ICP goes to, but ours we found was mostly through word of mouth, LinkedIn, because our buyers were the executive buyers, CMOs, VPs of marketing, directors of marketing, directors of content at different enterprise companies who were not, Googling who we were. They were talking to their peers within
Mhm.
their communities and looking for thought leadership and subject matter expertise on LinkedIn. So that's where we shifted a lot of our marketing focus was away from the paid ads area and into more of the higher level thought leadership and helpful content.
Yeah, and
Um,
if you
yeah,
stop you there, like how did you discover that? Was it like just through talking with buyers? Were you like surveying people? Like how did you
yeah.
know that like, where they got to their information from you?
Yeah, so when I first started, I interviewed a lot of customers to find out where they heard about us first, and it was helpful also to have that experience and a network of marketers to rely on and call up to. Our tool is a little different because we're made for marketers by a bunch of marketers, so we have a group of people who are our buyers, and I think that's the one advice that I would take away with is really do the research. And as someone who's been in sales for a long time in different organizations, it's that attribution and that self-reported attribution is, as Chris Walker likes to say, is really key for like where people find you. And I think a lot of companies might go in blind based on guesses and whatnot, but talking to your customers and finding out how they hear about products, how they buy, and I, I'd love to jump into the
Yeah,
metaphor after
let's go
because
there. Yeah, how buyers buy now. Yeah.
yeah, because that was purely through having so many conversations with marketers, not even just marketers, but different buying folks, of where and how they do information, what they look for. Um, yeah, maybe I'll jump into that and that'll kind of go there. But the last thing I'll say about this one is
Sure.
um, I talked about this earlier too, where this buying stage hasn't changed much. This purchase stage and retention stage, in my 20ish years doing this, it hasn't changed a lot. This is how people buy. You talk to a salesperson, you're more looking for like strategic fit now. What has changed a ton is the awareness and consideration stage. So, in the early early years, and dating myself now, the internet wasn't as prevalent, and you had to really rely on the salesperson to have all of this information, right? But we're in an age now where everything is online. You can search for anything, and all this content is there, so people don't want to talk to a salesperson anymore, and this is awareness and consideration stage has changed a ton. So it's really stopped being a, 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 a sales-led buyer's journey to really a marketing-led buyer's journey. And this
Mhm.
really how, um,
It's like people want to do their research and consume all the content that they can up front
yeah,
before
totally.
talking to a
Yeah,
salesperson. Yeah, there's a bunch of stats
yeah,
and stuff that I've seen out there, but I think this like really paints a good picture if you can like zoom in on
yeah.
areas here. Yeah.
And in my research, I found there's really two reasons for this, right? And the first is the technological advances that connect us are so much easier now. Like you can hop on any community, you can just search anything and everything is there. And the companies that win are putting content out there that allows their buyers to see that. That's the first. The second interesting one that I don't think people talk about enough, maybe they do, but is really generational changes as buyers age up, right? And how boomers like to buy is very different than how Gen X likes to buy, and like how millennials like to buy. So we're seeing a lot of millennials in Gen Z in positions of buying power now, where as before it was different. So how your ICP chooses to buy is how you need to market to them. And that's one thing that we've done at Lumen 5, and recognize that the people that we're selling to, and our customers, buy differently. So we have different stages and different ways of selling to them. But majority of our customers are, marketers, millennials, who have a certain way of buying, and this is how we match it. But
I like I
this
like that heuristic a lot around, if you're looking to figure out like what channel to invest in next, like look at the cohort of how people
yeah,
do things when they're like Gen Z or before now, and then like
totally.
that's where
Yeah.
you're gonna go. Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah. No, absolutely, right? Because you're gonna cold calling might work if you're trying to sell to one age group, and your buyer's a certain demographic, but it's not gonna work for another, right? So how do you reach your people? But yeah, in terms of how buyers now buy, and this again was really, like I said, I had a hypothesis just based on the years in sales, but really confirmed it with our customers and our target market. And initially you start off with that buyers regularly chat with peers and consume content, and we all do that, right, Kevin? I mean, we're all over LinkedIn. We're all over thought leaders, influencers. Like you and I just chatted before this about the books that we read, the podcasts that we listened to, and all that is just for fun. Like we're not really looking for anything. We're just out there learning and engaging with LinkedIn
These
or
are the
blogs
channels
or
that we're
podcasts.
on. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. But call a sales rep is not on there.
Nice. Yeah.
Right. So that's the main key. And then something happens, right? Like something occurs in a realization that when you're going through all this research, it flips something in your mind. And these are the key three categories that I found in speaking with marketing leaders and heads of marketing, content buyers, is that they either have a blocker that hindered them from hitting their goals, they were introduced to a better way of doing things to help them hit their goals, or they're missing out on what others are finding success in hitting their goals. But everything is goals based, right? So the first one is pain based. And pain based is usually internally, where someone on your team comes to you and says, hey, this is hindering us. So they're aware of the blocker. The second one is disruption based. So it's like, whoa, I never thought about that before, but now that I've like this, I can't think the same anymore. And I think Refine Labs did a great job of really disrupting the market with introducing a new way to doing things that helps people hit their goals. So I think that's where they took off like a
Mhm.
rocket. The third thing is really hearing what other people are doing, and that's the FOMO based one. So these two are external. They're usually unaware of the blocker, but they're introduced, right? So that's the catalyst that happens during this stage.
I feel like I don't want to ask you like a job interview type question, but I'm curious, like
Yeah.
what Lumen 5, like if you have like these triggers like identified, where it's like, okay, someone has this pain, or and like that puts them in market. Like, is there triggers like that you're looking for to identify for your customers?
Yeah. Like pain based, you mean?
No, it doesn't matter. Like, any of these that would put someone essentially like give them the catalyst to
Mhm.
be in market for Lumen 5, or even in another
Oh,
example. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I think like we're pain based for us as a video creation software is like I want to make videos every day, but we're not able to because we don't have the tools, the expertise, the money to do so. Disruption base is really thinking I'm crawling through broken glass, as my head of product likes to say all the time. It's like I'm making these videos on my phone and they're just not very good. So how do I do this? And then all of a sudden they see our content, and that gives them an idea to a better way to do things. Our FOMO base is like, wow, I'm seeing all these other companies, my competitors out there doing these things and making these videos. How are they doing it? And I want to do that too. So that catalyst really needs to kick off before they start down that journey of looking specifically at something.
Yeah, yeah. So you have them like pretty clearly mapped out. You can tell that you've where to put someone in market. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think we can move on to the like mindset and behavior start part of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, and that perfect kind of segue into this part was like, now that the customers had those things in mind, what you just asked me, is that now they're aware. They're aware of a blocker, and now they're aware of that there's solutions out there to help them hit their goals, right? So when they get to this part here, they start looking at solutions and alternative ways to do things. And again, from my conversations with the people that I spoke to, there's two ways that they start doing that. One is they start looking for market validation, So I started asking my peers what they're doing. They reach out to communities, they look at review sites, and they start researching. The other ones, they research online to see what's out there. So instead of talking to someone, they'll just go. And
I know that I have
now,
like a. Oh, sorry to interrupt.
no, yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I know that I have like a few channels that I go to. Like one is just like a WhatsApp group of like marketing
Yeah.
for friends. I just ask them like, hey, like, what do you think about this category? What do you think about this tool? They typically
Hmm.
have some sort of like feedback there. And then if like they don't, they're like, oh, we haven't experienced this thing at all. Then I'll like check like channels like Rev Genius or Demand Curve
Yeah.
to see. But I won't like actually type in anything myself. I'll just like do research behind the scenes and like do a control F for like what the product is. So like that's the way
Yeah.
I pretty much do my buying or like discovery process and evaluation process. Yeah.
Yeah,
That is
absolutely. And you're not alone, right? Like everyone, like on here, we see communities as part of that. And we see thought leaderships. And when you're talking to your friend, you're really going through different back channels, word of mouth, it's referrals. So, and this is exactly where they go next. But now they're in the consideration stage. So they're actually considering a solution. Whereas before I was just looking at everything. Now you feel like you have a problem, you feel like there's a solution out there. Now you start really looking for it, and you talk to your friends, you look at things, you listen more deeply to podcasts. Maybe you found this one, and all of a sudden you heard one episode, you're going to dive into all of them, and that's very common as well. So but call a sales rep is still not on there from what we've been hearing from folks, right? um, from there, now, let's say they've looped around, they've found some solutions, they've done research, and now they're seeing specific options. And now they're like, okay, well, who can actually help me? Because when, for example, in our case, if they want to make more videos, but now there's different options. Do I hire a contractor to do that? Do I build an in-house team? Do I buy software? Do I do this on Premiere Pro? Do I hire someone like that? There's a bunch of different things. And once they've done their research and now are considering specific options, so now I've narrowed it down to, okay, hiring someone is not there. I need to make use of my existing team. So I need to find tech out there to help me do this. And now they look at different specific solutions to go down this path. And this isn't just for Lumen 5, but this is really in every single buying cycle. You could be looking for, you know, like a tool like Jira or a CRM. You could be looking for a software service or any kind of tool that you're looking to buy. This is really a solutions based buyer's journey. And in the enterprise space, it's all about finding solutions to fix pains. And that's how enterprise buys. So that's how, when we're shifting up market, we shifted away from ads saying, hey, look how great we are, look how easy we are to use, and those flashy 10-second spot ads, to thought leadership content that's helpful, that's really proving ourselves as the thought leaders to help you solve the solutions. And we understand your pain, and I think that's the big one, is we get it, like we get that pain. But
One
essentially,
question there is, since like
yeah, yeah.
your sales team's like not coaching people through each of these steps, so I'm guessing
Mhm.
like your marketing team's like creating content. Is that like, did you kind of like lay out this journey and you're like, okay, marketing team, like we know we've done our customer research, like we have to fill in the gaps of the content gaps across like all the stages of this buyer journey, because like we don't have a salesperson guiding people through this right now. Is like, is that something
Absolutely.
that you like did like right away when you're like, okay, this is a different type of journey, we gotta like fill in the gaps of the content right now? Yeah, how did that
Yeah,
work? Yeah.
yeah, that's a great question. I will get there in 30 seconds.
Oh, nice. Okay, let's get there.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Okay, sweet. I'll just wrap this part up here. But now, like the last stage of the buyer's mindset is, now they're like, who can help me, right? And they go back to the thing where they came recommended by peers. Because if your friend at a different company is like, yeah, I used this one tool and it was great, you should go check them out. You're going to, right? Or you found that you resonated with their messaging, and they represented what you wanted to achieve because you liked either their brand, their solution. You found that the jobs to be done fit what you're looking to do, or you had a good trial of the product, right? So at this part here, finally, is when they reach out to sales. And this is the purchase and sales decision. So after they've gone through this entire section of content, like first floating around, coming to a realization catalyst, doing research, finding a good fit, now is when they talk to a sales rep. And when they reach out to a sales rep, we're no longer selling features and benefits because the customer already knows. Like, I think the stat is something like 85% of buyers who first hit your sales team, they already know. They've already made a decision, and what they want to do is have that customization of your solution to their problem. So your sales team now doesn't need to be a sales team. They need to be more strategic consultants where they can drive that value and that solution to them.
Do you mind if I share this Miro board with the chat just so people can follow along?
Yeah, absolutely. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people would love to have it as a takeaway too, but it's with the depending on your screen size, it could be a little like small.
Yeah, no. It's you're kind of jumping. Yeah, you're not supposed to see anything here. It's mostly just
like this is the whole thing.
Yeah. But no. Feel free to share this out. And happy to lend the strategy to anybody who might find it useful as well. I think this is great. But earlier, your question was
content. Yeah.
Content, like how did we switch it, right? So first, by understanding how buyers buy, we did a lot of research on that, and then we shifted to like how vendors now need to go to market, right? So moving backwards, you can kind of see how I've aligned it with each stage of the journey. So this is the external journey, and now how vendors need to go to market is now this top part says buyers regularly chat with peers and consume content. So now vendors, we regularly publish helpful, impactful, and valuable content. So at Lumen 5, at different companies I've been at, our marketing team needs to be putting content out there that's regularly helpful, impactful, and valuable, right? We want to position that, hey, we understand blockers that hinder you, and we talk about them, which addresses the pain-based. We want to put out content that's tells people there's a better way to do things that helps you hit your goals, which is disruption based. And we also want to put out content like case studies and different stories that say, hey, here's what other people are doing and finding success in, which drives FOMO based, right? So our positioning in this initial content stage hits these things here, where, as you remember, these were the disruption based, FOMO based, and pain based.
Kind of like nudging them along to the next step kind of thing.
Yeah. And our goal is we want to drive a catalyst. We want to be the one that helps them realize that there's a better way to do things. There's different tools out there for them to do things. So we want to drive the catalyst. A lot of times catalysts might come naturally, which is the internal one, but where marketing can drive revenue and growth for any company is to create that catalyst. And that's really where this marketing-led buyer's journey really starts. So if you're able to put content out there regularly that stokes ideas and puts ideas and different ways of doing things into your buyer's mindset and helps them and gives away free information to do so, that's what we need to do. And that's what people are looking for. So along this way, their buyer's mindset. And again, when what vendors need to do, if you go up here, we're looking at, I started asking my peers and I started doing research. Well, guess what marketers can do? Now marketers can be putting content out there that allows them to find this information. So it goes back to these same channels, right? And now the positioning is, hey, our solutions can resolve your blocker, which is pain-based again. Our solutions are a better way to do things, which is disruption-based. And others are using our solutions and finding success in hitting your goals. So same channels, but a different way of content. So our marketing team looks at every piece of content that goes out there and we ask each other, is this made for awareness or is this made for consideration? And if it's awareness, we stay away from Lumen 5. We talk about video. We talk about how this can help drive goals or different metrics or drive more MQLs, drive more revenue. And then if it's consideration based, then that's when we talk more about, this is what we do. This is how we can help in different stages of where people are looking for.
And on these different channels, like how's your marketing team mapping that out? Because it's like you don't have control in your CRM or like knowing like where they are at these stages. So is there some science to that you can share? Yeah.
That's a great question. And I think we've heard this term for a little while around dark social and people, it's really hard to attribute with software where people are finding us, right? And again, I kind of go back to Refine Labs and what Chris Walker talks about. And that self-reported attribution is really key when customers come to you. And this is where that this is where the walls need to break down between sales and marketing, is that when they come and talk to sales, sales needs to be gathering this information, asking the customers these questions. How did you first hear about us? And then transferring that information back to marketing to say, hey, 40, 50, 60% of the people who are coming into our pipeline first heard about us through this community, or it's working on G2, or this one piece of content really resonated, right? And that's really hard to track with tech, but with when customers tell you, you start gathering a ton of insight, and you start being able to create your strategies based on those insights. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I've seen so many instances. Are I mean, I chat with lots of companies and friends, and they, oftentimes they don't peel back the onion, so to speak,
Yeah,
of like, you know, uh, we have a lot of stuff coming in from Google Organic, and like, but is it? And then you look deeper, and it's like, oh, it's all branded
it's all
Google
branded.
Organic or
Yeah,
Google
yeah.
search, and it's like, well, how did they get to that point? And then that's where
Mhm.
self-reported attribution really can come into play and help out, like guide you a lot. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think at
Uh,
one point we were spending over 6 figures a month on paid ads, and we're like, where is this coming from? And a lot of it was branded. So, I cut away at it slowly, 10%, 15%, and it made zero difference to our sales. And eventually I was like, let's just pull the band-aid, cut it all. It made zero difference to our revenue. So that was really eye-opening. And we did that of June of 2021. Haven't looked back. We've reallocated a lot of that spending and budget towards building up our teams and building up this kind of content.
Yeah, I guess it kind of lends itself to like, yeah, what is working? It sounds like you're
Mhm.
doing more um, thought leadership, or like putting like investing more in the awareness stage across these different channels. I wonder if you could share a little
Mhm.
bit more about like what's working now for Lumen 5 for generating this awareness or generating demand.
Yeah, I think we shift really quickly with the market, depending on what's working and what's not. I think when AI hit a big peak earlier this year, like we were the top of every list,
Hmm.
because we've been doing machine learning and AI within our product since inception, and we are known as the leading AI company for video creation. So we saw a massive jump in who we are. So we pivoted right away from awareness marketing to consideration content, because we were riding that hype train of AI, and people were finding us organically. So we didn't need to start creating more content around that. So we shifted to consideration stage content to say, hey, this
Uh,
is who we are, this is how we're helpful. So a big part of that was shifted. And then now when we're starting to see that go down, right, as
the hype
hype
cycle's
usually,
hitting
the
a
hype
trough a
cycle,
little bit.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So now we're shifting a little bit more resources back into creating different types of awareness content and who we are. But and this is really, yeah. So I guess having the data, but being nimble enough to act on that data is huge in looking at insights, but also kind of seeing your predictors as well for where they're going. And this is just in the marketing stage, right? When we looked at sales and CX as well, in sales, the massive change that we've seen in the last year and a half is procurement cycles being much longer,
Mm-hmm.
and revenue cycles being much longer. Like we used to spend more time selling the product and finding a business fit, and then less time in procurement. But now it's shifted. It's completely flipped around, where we're spending 20% of our time in the sales cycle, but 80% of our time in the procurement cycle. So
Yeah. People always want
once
to are consolidating, trying to consolidate, and not expand or add new
yeah,
vendors. It's tough out there for sellers for sure.
yeah, and especially what's happened with the market and the recessions and the downturn that we've seen over the last year and a half, it's very tight, right? And you're not selling to one person anymore. You're selling to an entire committee of buyers who have no interest in the solution now. They just want to see dollar value, or they want to see what the value is to their company. So when we realized that, we very much shifted our sales team's skills and training away from how do you sell to how do you
Mm.
drive procurement? How do you speed up the procurement cycle? How do you understand procurement? So I think taking a lot of that data, and this is what we do as a company, and I think is prevalent for most companies to do as well, is act on data quickly, but also see like where's your holdup? Are you having issues attracting customers, but really quick time selling them? Maybe invest more in attraction. Or are you attracting a lot of customers but having trouble converting? or you're
Mhm.
converting really quickly, but you're having trouble retaining them because they're all bleeding out. So I think to be able to see where you're spending a lot of time and resources and effort, that's where you put your
So looking across
attention towards them.
the whole
Yeah,
funnel to see where there's, yeah, bottlenecks are. Yeah, yeah,
totally. And this speaks to that whole unified go to market team, where if each team was working in silos, you couldn't do this. Right.
yeah. Totally, totally.
Yeah.
Um, I want to open it up to audience questions. Uh, but I also have one other question that I wanted to ask you about, because I noticed that Lumen 5, I know you're um, you know made the switch to going more up market, but there's still self-serve, and there still looks like there's a freemium part of the product,
Mhm.
and that's also, I'm guessing, part of the buyer's journey that's like not quite in with the salesperson. It's like they're doing it on their own, but you at least know who they are, what they're doing. So I'm curious just like how that plays a role into like informing your who's ready to buy, or
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot of people want to know, like, okay, we have a self-serve product or a free product, and like, how do we find the right people who are good for the sales team to engage with?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we're the model that we built at Lumen 5 is really a flywheel model where we put our product out there, and there's two ways. I think we're in a unique position as well, where we're able to go bottom up with the users and top down from the buyers and the executives within these companies. So when we look at attracting buyers, so the individual marketer who has troubles doing what they're supposed to because they were mandated a goal by their leadership, they're gonna find us and they're gonna use us. They're gonna love us, hopefully, through our product, and then they're gonna recommend us to their colleagues and whatnot. And next thing you know, we'll have 10, 15, 20 people within an organization using that self-serve tool. Once we get there, that's when our sales teams engage and kind of wraps them all in with these different features that any enterprise organization would have. So that's the model that we're going with, and it's proven a lot of success because I think somewhere along the line, as a user, as a marketer, I'm going to find these tools. Marketers love tools, and they're going to find these tools that they're going to like using. And out of our self-serve user base, 18% of them are from enterprise companies, and that's
Mm,
that's who we go after it, and that's who we drive up market, and that drives a big part of our funnel as well. So the ability to go to an executive and say, hey, your team's already using us, and they already
yeah.
love us, and this is our enterprise package and features now. It's really a no-brainer at that point.
Did you see that like shift in the composition of leads happen when you started to like focus more on the enterprise or like going up market side of things? Because I feel like it's usually flipped the other way, where 90% of your people signing up for the product are tinkers, hobbyists, and like hard, but
Mhm.
like not necessarily in an enterprise organization. So did you see that like shift or trend over time, or has that always been the case?
That shifted, yeah, because in the beginning, when we were doing a lot of marketing towards the self-serve solopreneur group, we didn't see as big of an enterprise user base within the self-serve market. So now that we're putting content out there that purely attracts the ICP of enterprise folks, we're seeing that number go up as well. So that's what builds that flywheel model where they've already used us for years, maybe not years, but months at least, and kind of we expand within their company as well. And I think a key point that I want to make as well is we couldn't have done this without collaboration with our product and engineering teams as
Mhm.
well, where a lot of the features that, I mean, engineers by design are inventors. They love to invent things and see what works, and less so on the business side, right? So when we ask them, hey, let's build some boring stuff like SSO and API and like team stuff, right? It's not as fun as building, an AI feature that allows us to do this, right? So having product also be on board with the shift to go up market was also meaning to ask them to build things that enterprise companies view as table stakes that they need to have. And those are things like approvals, single sign-on login, security measures, and
Role-based
whatnot.
access
So,
controls, like all that
yeah,
kind of stuff. Yeah.
all that fun stuff, right? So, having buy-in from different teams was key as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we don't have too vocal of a group here. That's okay. I think it's we're a little bit over time anyway. So maybe we could, Pius, I don't know if there's anything you want to leave us with. I shared the Miro board in the chat, but we'll follow up with the recording for everyone. But yeah, if there's anything you want to leave the group with, other than that, I just want to thank you for your time, and it's been great and eye opening for me for sure. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
Thanks,
let
Kevin.
you close. Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah. Feel free to check out the Miro board. I think that was definitely an effort of a lot of different conversations. So it's something that we've built over the last year and continue to refine. So yeah, feel free to kind of pick it apart as you like, and hopefully it works for your strategy as well.
All right. Thanks so much. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll follow up with the recording soon. So have a good one.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, Kevin.